Daddy, please help her.
The child's voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was enough to stop Marcus Cole in the middle of a crowded parking lot, as if the world itself had just missed a beat. The October sun hung low over Oceanside, bright and unforgiving, stretching long shadows across asphalt that still held the heat of the day. Car doors slammed, engines idled, people talked, laughed, argued. Ordinary sounds layered together into a familiar noise Marcus had learned to move through without thinking. He was holding his daughter's hand. Emma was 7, barely reaching his waist, clutching a white stuffed unicorn she had talked him into buying inside Target. She walked close to him, talking about her art class, about how her teacher had let her use watercolors instead of pencils. Marcus listened, nodded, answered when needed. He had learned to give his full attention to small things. This was his life now. Smaller, quieter, contained. Then the scream cut through it. It wasn't a long scream, just a sharp sound, cut off too quickly, like someone had realized they weren't supposed to make noise. Marcus looked up. About 50 yards away, between 2 large SUVs, a woman was being dragged toward a dark blue van. No one nearby stopped. The angle of the parked vehicles hid most of what was happening. From a distance, it could pass as an argument, the kind people trained themselves to ignore. Marcus didn't. 4 men, 1 woman. One man had her left arm. Another pressed in behind her. A third blocked the line of sight from the open lot. The fourth stood farther back, hand inside his jacket, eyes scanning everything. This wasn't a robbery. Marcus knew it before he had words for it. Emma saw it too.
Daddy.
Her grip tightened. They're hurting her. Marcus pulled out his phone, dialing 911 by instinct. His eyes locked on the scene. The operator answered just as he saw the flash of metal. A knife. The man closest to the woman pulled out a folding blade and pressed it gently against her ribs. Not hard, but hard enough. Her resistance vanished instantly. That wasn't the reaction of someone being threatened for money. That was the reaction of someone who knew she was about to disappear.
Daddy,
Emma whispered, her voice shaking. He has a knife. Marcus froze, phone still in his hand. Your location? The operator asked. Oceanside Gateway Shopping Center, Marcus said quietly. East parking lot. There's an abduction in progress. How many suspects? 4. Units are en route. ETA 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Marcus glanced at his watch, then back at the van. The sliding door was already open. 1 shove, 1 step, and the woman would be gone. Off the pavement, out of the sunlight, out of the lives of everyone walking past without ever knowing what they'd missed. He looked down at Emma. Her face had gone pale. Her eyes were wide. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't crying. She was just looking at him. The way children look at their fathers when the world suddenly stops making sense.
Daddy, please help her.
No gunshots. No sirens. Just a small voice and a man forced to decide who he was. Marcus lowered the phone and ended the call. He knelt in front of his daughter, keeping his voice steady. Bug. Listen to me, he said. Run over to that woman. He pointed to a middle-aged lady loading groceries into her car nearby. And stand next to her. Don't leave. Don't turn around. Wait until I come get you. Do you understand? Emma bit her lip. Tears spilled over, but she nodded. She ran. The stuffed unicorn bounced against her side with every step. Marcus stood. He let the phone drop to the ground, the operator's voice still spilling out into the air, and started walking toward the van. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He walked. Each step carried him farther away from the quiet life he'd built over the last 3 years. Each step pulled him back towards something he'd sworn he wouldn't need again. His body moved before his mind could argue. The lookout turned first. Their eyes met. There was a brief moment, so short only people who had lived through moments like that could recognize it, when both men understood the plan had just broken. Marcus didn't slow down. When it was over, it had taken less than 30 seconds. 3 men lay motionless on the hot asphalt. The knife slipped from the 4th man's hand, clattering across the ground. He fell back hard, gasping, then smiled. Not the smile of a man who had lost. He looked straight at Marcus and said quietly, "You don't know who you just saved." Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance. Marcus turned away, his heart pounding, and the only thing on his mind wasn't the 4 men behind him. It was his daughter, standing 20 yards away, clutching her unicorn, waiting for her father to come back. And for the first time that day, Marcus Cole wondered whether there were some actions that could never be erased, even when no one wanted to remember them. The sirens arrived first. Not close, not loud. Just enough to remind Marcus Cole that the world was moving again, whether he was ready or not. He crossed the asphalt with long, controlled strides, every sense still sharpened, every muscle refusing to stand down. Emma saw him before he reached her. She broke free from the woman she had been standing beside and ran, the stuffed unicorn slipping from her arms and tumbling onto the pavement. Marcus caught her before she could fall. She slammed into his chest, sobbing hard now, fingers clutching the back of his shirt as if letting go might make him disappear. "I'm here," he said quietly. "I've got you." He didn't look back. He didn't need to. Behind him, voices rose. People had finally noticed. Phones were out now. Someone was shouting that the police were coming, as if that hadn't already been decided minutes ago. Marcus crouched and picked up the unicorn, brushing dirt from its white fur before placing it gently back into Emma's arms. His hands were steady. He noticed that more than anything else. That came later. The shaking. 2 Oceanside patrol cars pulled in, lights flashing but sirens cutting off as officers spilled out, weapons drawn, commands sharp and overlapping. "Everyone stay back! Hands where we can see them!" Marcus complied without hesitation, one arm wrapped around Emma, the other raised slightly away from his body. He turned slowly, careful not to surprise anyone. An officer approached him first, eyes flicking between Marcus's face, his hands, and the men on the ground behind him. "Sir," the officer said, "step away from your child for me." Marcus hesitated for half a second, then knelt, pressing his forehead briefly against Emma's hair. "It's okay, Bug," he murmured. "They're here now." She nodded, face buried in the unicorn. He stood and stepped back. The officers moved fast. Cuffs snapped shut. One man groaned as he was rolled onto his side. Another didn't move at all. Paramedics arrived moments later, kneeling beside the bodies, checking pulses, calling out injuries. Marcus stayed where he was told. So did Emma. A detective arrived shortly after, older, calm, the kind of calm that came from having seen too much to rush anymore. His badge read Rodriguez. He looked at Marcus for a long moment before speaking. "You the one who called this in?" "Yes," Marcus said. Rodriguez nodded. "You hurt?" "No." "Your daughter?" Marcus glanced at Emma. "She's shaken, that's it." Rodriguez crouched in front of Emma, lowering himself to her eye level. "You did good listening to your dad," he said gently. "You were very brave." Emma nodded without speaking. Rodriguez stood and motioned Marcus aside. "Walk me through it," he said. Marcus told him exactly what happened. No embellishment, no heroics, just facts. He didn't mention training. He didn't mention instincts. He didn't mention how natural the violence had felt. Rodriguez listened without interrupting. When Marcus finished, the detective exhaled slowly. "These guys," Rodriguez said, lowering his voice. "They're not locals." Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. "How can you tell?" he asked. Rodriguez glanced back toward the van, now cordoned off with yellow tape. "Vehicle's clean, too clean, plates don't match, and the way they moved, this wasn't opportunistic." Marcus said nothing. Rodriguez studied him for another second, then spoke again, quieter this time. "One of them said something before he went under," the detective said. "Did you hear it?" Marcus didn't answer right away. "Yes," he said finally. "What did he say?" Marcus hesitated, then repeated it exactly. "You don't know who you just saved." Rodriguez's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes did. He straightened slowly. "Okay," he said. "That's interesting." The woman Marcus had saved was sitting on the curb nearby, wrapped in a blanket. Her hands trembled slightly, but her posture was rigid, controlled. She hadn't cried. She hadn't spoken. She hadn't looked around in confusion the way most victims did. She looked like someone waiting. Rodriguez followed Marcus's gaze. "You know her?" the detective asked. "No." "She hasn't asked for a phone," Rodriguez said. "Hasn't asked to call anyone. That's unusual." Marcus watched as two uniformed officers approached the woman, not aggressively, but with a kind of careful respect Marcus couldn't quite explain. She spoke quietly to them. They nodded. One of them glanced back at Marcus, then quickly looked away. The sun was lower now. The golden light had softened, stretching longer shadows across the parking lot. The normal rhythm of the place had been broken beyond repair. Eventually, they let Marcus go. No charges, no handcuffs, no congratulations. Just paperwork. Statements. A long wait in the back of a patrol car while Emma fell asleep against his chest, exhausted tears drying on her cheeks. By the time Marcus drove home, the sky had darkened to deep blue. He carried Emma upstairs, tucked her into bed, and sat there longer than necessary, listening to her breathing even out, making sure it stayed that way. Downstairs, the house felt too quiet. Marcus poured himself a glass of water and stood at the kitchen sink, staring at nothing. He replayed the moment again. The knife. The van. The smile. You don't know who you just saved. At 8:12 the next morning, the knock came. Not loud, not aggressive, precise. Marcus looked through the peephole. A man stood on his porch in full navy dress blues. The uniform was immaculate, the posture unmistakable. 2 silver stars sat on his shoulders. A rear admiral. Marcus opened the door. "Marcus Cole?" the man asked. "Yes." The admiral met his eyes. "My name is Admiral Brennan," he said. "I'm here because of what happened yesterday afternoon." Marcus felt the floor shift slightly beneath him. Before he could respond, the admiral added quietly, "The woman you pulled out of that van is my daughter." And in that moment, Marcus understood something he hadn't allowed himself to consider yet. Yesterday hadn't ended in the parking lot. It had only paused. The admiral did not step inside right away. He waited, not because he needed permission, but because he understood something Marcus Cole did not yet have words for. Moments like this carried weight, and weight deserved a pause. "May I come in?" Admiral Brennan asked. Marcus nodded and stepped aside. The man entered with the quiet authority of someone who had spent a lifetime walking into rooms where decisions were already made. He took in the modest living room with a single glance. The worn couch, the coffee table scattered with crayons and folded paper, the family photos lined neatly along the shelf. A father's house. No flags, no medals, No reminders of anything larger than what lived here now. "That's my daughter," the Admiral said, nodding toward a photo of Emma taped crookedly to the wall. "She looks like she trusts you." Marcus didn't answer. He didn't know what to say to a man who had just told him the woman from the parking lot was his daughter. They sat. The Admiral removed his cap and set it carefully on his knee. For a moment he looked older than Marcus had expected, older than the uniform suggested. "I won't waste your time," Brennan said. "What you did yesterday saved my daughter's life." Marcus exhaled slowly. "I didn't know who she was." "I know," the Admiral replied. "That's why I'm here." Silence settled between them. Not awkward, but heavy. The kind that came when both men understood that words would shape what came next. "My daughter's name is Sarah," Brennan continued. "She doesn't normally run errands alone. Yesterday wasn't supposed to happen." Marcus felt the tension in his shoulders tighten. "Those men," Brennan said, "weren't criminals looking for an opportunity. They were professionals executing a plan." Marcus leaned back slightly. "A kidnapping," he said. Brennan shook his head once. Slow, deliberate. "A removal." The word hung there. "From what?" Marcus asked. Brennan met his eyes. "From visibility." Marcus frowned. "I don't understand." "You're not supposed to," the Admiral said. "Most people aren't." He paused, then added, "Sarah works in an advisory capacity. She doesn't make policy, she doesn't vote, but she sees things before they're supposed to be seen. Documents, conversations, movement." Marcus stayed quiet. "If she had disappeared yesterday," Brennan went on, "it would have looked like a crime of convenience, a tragedy, a failure of public safety." "And instead?" Marcus asked. "Instead," Brennan said, "it became a problem." He leaned forward slightly. "Because someone intervened." Marcus felt the implications settle in his chest. "You." Marcus looked down at his hands. "I didn't do it to interfere with anything," he said. "I know," Brennan replied quickly. "And that's the point." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a thin folder, setting it unopened on the table between them. "There are situations," Brennan said, "where the most dangerous variable is an unpredictable human being." Marcus didn't touch the folder. "The men you stopped," Brennan continued, "weren't the end of anything. They were the beginning." Marcus's jaw tightened. "So why come here?" he asked. "Why tell me any of this?" Brennan studied him for a long moment. "Because the man who smiled at you yesterday," he said, "he wasn't smiling because he lost." Marcus's pulse quickened. "He was smiling because he understood something," Brennan said quietly. "That you weren't supposed to be there. And yet, you were." Marcus remembered the look. Not fear, not pain. Recognition. "He said something," Marcus said. Brennan nodded. "I know. You don't know who you just saved." "Yes," Brennan said. "He meant it." Marcus leaned forward now. "So what happens next?" he asked. The Admiral straightened. "Officially," he said. "Nothing." Marcus blinked. "Those men will be processed," Brennan continued. "Charges will be filed. The incident will be categorized. My daughter will return to work under tighter security." "And unofficially?" Brennan held Marcus's gaze. "Unofficially," he said, "someone will want to understand how a civilian with a child present dismantled a 4-man extraction team in under 30 seconds. Marcus stiffened. "I don't care what you were," Brennan said, cutting him off. "I care about what you did." He gestured toward the hallway. "And I care about what you have to protect." At that moment, soft footsteps came from the stairs. Emma stood there, clutching her unicorn, rubbing sleep from her eyes.
Daddy?
She asked. Marcus stood immediately. Hey, Bug, he said gently. You okay? She nodded, then looked at the Admiral. Is he a soldier? She asked. Brennan smiled, not the smile of an officer, but of a grandfather. Yes, he said. A long time ago. Emma considered this, then nodded, satisfied. She turned back to Marcus. I had a bad dream, she said, about the van. Marcus's heart clenched. He knelt and pulled her into his arms. It's over, he said softly. You're safe. Brennan watched the scene in silence. When Emma went back upstairs, the Admiral stood. I won't ask anything of you today, he said, or tomorrow. He paused at the door. But I need you to understand this, he added. What you did yesterday can't be undone. Not by me. Not by anyone. Marcus met his eyes. So what do you want? He asked. Brennan's voice dropped. I want you to be prepared, he said, for the possibility that doing the right thing didn't end when you walked away. He opened the door. And I want you to know, he added without turning around, that if anyone comes near your daughter because of what happened yesterday, they'll answer to me. The door closed. Marcus stood alone in the quiet house. He looked at the staircase, at the crayon marks on the wall, at the small, ordinary life he had fought to build. Outside, a car passed. Somewhere, plans were being rewritten. And Marcus Cole realized something he hadn't allowed himself to consider yet. The moment he chose to help, the world had quietly chosen him back. Nothing happened for the rest of the day. That, more than anything else, unsettled Marcus Cole. Emma went to school. He washed the dishes. He answered a few emails he had ignored since the parking lot. The house breathed the way it always had, quiet, ordinary, deceptively safe. And yet, something had shifted. Marcus felt it in the pauses between sounds, in the way silence lingered a second too long after the refrigerator shut off, in the instinct that refused to let his shoulders relax. He had lived with danger before. This was different. This was waiting. He walked Emma to the bus stop that afternoon, stood where he always stood, smiled at the same parents, exchanged the same polite nods. No black vans slowed nearby. No unfamiliar faces lingered. But Marcus watched everything. Reflections in car windows, hands in jacket pockets. The way a man across the street pretended to scroll on his phone while never actually looking at it. When the bus pulled away with Emma inside, Marcus didn't wave. He memorized the license plates around him instead. At home, he checked the doors, then checked them again. He didn't add new locks, didn't move furniture, didn't make calls. People who panicked made mistakes. Marcus poured himself coffee and stood at the kitchen counter, staring out the window. A sedan rolled past the house, slowed slightly, continued on. He told himself it meant nothing. By evening, the first message arrived. Not a threat, not a warning, a voicemail with no words. Marcus listened to it twice. 5 seconds of background noise, wind, traffic. A faint click at the end, like someone hanging up without saying goodbye. He deleted it. That night, Emma didn't sleep well. She woke twice from dreams she couldn't fully explain. Once because she thought she heard a door. Once because she was sure someone had taken her unicorn. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed until her breathing evened out again. He didn't sleep at all. At 6:18 a.m., his phone buzzed. A text message. Unknown number. You did the right thing. No signature. No follow-up. Marcus stared at the screen until it went dark. He didn't reply. Later that morning, he noticed the second anomaly. His truck had been moved. Not much, just enough. The front wheels were turned slightly to the right. He was certain he'd parked them straight, certain enough to feel his pulse rise. Nothing was taken. Nothing was broken. But someone had been close enough to touch something that belonged to him. That afternoon, a man knocked on the door. Not the Admiral. This man wore jeans and a plain jacket. No insignia, no rank. He held no folder. "Mr. Cole," he said calmly, "I won't come inside." Marcus stayed in the doorway. "Good," Marcus replied. "Then say what you need to say." The man nodded, as if he'd expected that. "You're not in trouble," he said. "You're not under investigation." Marcus waited. "We just want to be sure you understand something," the man continued. "What happened didn't end with arrests." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I figured." The man glanced down the street before speaking again. "There are people who would prefer yesterday to remain misclassified," he said. "As long as that happens, things stay quiet." "And if it doesn't?" The man looked back at him. "Then things get loud," he said simply. Marcus leaned against the doorframe. "So which one are you?" he asked. "Quiet or loud?" The man smiled faintly. "I'm neither," he said. "I'm here to tell you that the choice won't be yours." He handed Marcus a card. No logo, no title, just a name and a number. "Call if anything feels off," the man said. "Trust that instinct you used yesterday." Then he turned and walked away. Marcus closed the door slowly. That evening, Admiral Brennan called. "I told you I wouldn't ask anything of you," the Admiral said. "This isn't that." Marcus said nothing. "You're being noticed," Brennan continued. "That was unavoidable." "So what now?" Marcus asked. Brennan exhaled. "Now we make sure the notice stops with us." A pause. "Marcus," Brennan added, "if at any point you want your life to go back to exactly what it was, tell me." Marcus looked at Emma, sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, coloring quietly, her tongue caught between her teeth in concentration. "What if that's no longer an option?" Marcus asked. The Admiral didn't answer right away. "Then," he said carefully, "we make sure the next choice you're forced to make isn't alone." That night, Marcus stood in the backyard long after the lights inside the house went out. The stars were clear, the air cool. From the outside, his life still looked small, still looked ordinary, but Marcus knew better now. He had stepped into something without knowing its name, pulled a thread without seeing how far it ran, and somewhere, beyond the reach of sirens and uniforms and polite reassurances, someone else was deciding what Marcus Cole was going to mean. He went back inside, locked the door, and stood there for a long moment with his hand still on the knob. For the first time since the parking lot, Marcus allowed himself a single uncomfortable thought. Saving someone had been the easy part. The second message arrived just after sunset. Marcus was standing at the stove, stirring a pot of pasta while Emma sat at the kitchen table, humming softly to herself as she colored. The house smelled like tomatoes and garlic, warm, familiar, normal. His phone buzzed once on the counter. He didn't reach for it. He waited. When it buzzed again, Emma looked up. "Daddy?" "It's nothing, Bug," Marcus said. "Just work stuff." He picked up the phone and glanced at the screen. "Unknown number. We didn't expect you to stay quiet." Marcus's hand tightened around the device. He typed nothing, sent nothing. The phone buzzed again almost immediately. Silence is still a choice. Marcus set the phone face down and turned off the stove. "Homework time," he said to Emma. "I'll be right back." He stepped into the hallway and closed the bathroom door behind him, lowering the lid of the toilet and sitting down heavily. He read the messages again. They weren't threats. They weren't instructions. They were acknowledgments. Someone knew he was thinking. Someone was watching how he reacted, or didn't. Marcus deleted the messages and powered the phone off. He stood in front of the mirror and stared at his own reflection. 3 years ago, he had walked away from a life where decisions like this were routine. Back then, the lines were clear. Orders were orders. Missions had names. End states were defined. Now there was only one thing that mattered: Emma. That night he dreamed of the van again. In the dream, the door never opened. It just kept sliding, longer and longer, swallowing light until there was nothing left. He woke before dawn, heart racing. By mid-morning, Admiral Brennan called. "I won't keep you long," the Admiral said, "but I need to ask you something." Marcus stood in the backyard, phone pressed to his ear, eyes on the fence line. "Go ahead. Did anyone contact you after we spoke?" Marcus didn't answer right away. "Yes," he said finally. "Indirectly." Brennan exhaled. "I was hoping you'd say no." "So what does that mean?" Marcus asked. "It means you're at a crossroads," Brennan replied. "And the longer you stand there, the more dangerous it becomes." Marcus leaned against the wooden railing. "I didn't ask for this." "No," Brennan said. "You didn't. But you also didn't walk away." Marcus closed his eyes. "Yesterday," the Admiral continued, "you prevented a situation from being buried. That created a gap. Small, but real. Gaps make people nervous. And nervous people make mistakes," Marcus said. Brennan paused. "You already understand more than you think." There was a long silence. "Marcus," Brennan said quietly, "I can make this stop. Not completely, but enough." "How?" "By bringing you in," Brennan said. "Briefly, carefully, on your terms." Marcus's jaw tightened. "No uniforms," Brennan added. "No public role, no press. You would see only what you need to see." "And then?" Marcus asked. "And then you decide whether you walk away," Brennan said, "with your eyes open." Marcus looked back through the sliding glass door at Emma, now on the living room floor, lining up her crayons by color. "What if I say no?" Marcus asked. Brennan didn't hesitate. "Then we do our best to shield you." "That's not an answer." "It's the most honest one I have," Brennan said. Marcus ended the call without another word. An hour later, someone rang the doorbell. Not a knock, a bell. Marcus checked the camera feed on his phone before opening the door. A woman stood on the porch. Mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, plain clothes, hands visible, calm. "Mr. Cole," she said when he opened the door, "I'm not here to scare you." Marcus didn't invite her in. "I'm listening," he said. "My name is Claire," she said. "I work with people who clean up situations that shouldn't exist in the first place." Marcus studied her face. "You're late," he said. She nodded. "You acted faster than we expected." "Everyone keeps saying that." Claire glanced past him toward the living room. "She's 7, she said. Right?" Marcus stepped forward, blocking her line of sight. "Say what you came to say." Claire met his eyes. "You can keep pretending this will pass," she said. "Or you can help us make sure it ends." Marcus laughed once, short and humorless. "I'm not a hero," he said. "No," Claire agreed. "You're a liability." The word landed hard. "You're unpredictable," she continued. "You don't follow chains of command. You don't wait. You intervene." Marcus said nothing. "That's exactly why this doesn't work without you," she added. Marcus leaned against the doorframe. And if I refuse? Claire shrugged slightly. Then we adapt. That doesn't sound reassuring. It isn't, she said. Marcus looked past her, down the street. Quiet, suburban, children's bikes leaning against driveways. How long? He asked. Claire didn't pretend to misunderstand. Long enough to close what you opened, she said. Not a day more. And my daughter? Claire's voice softened, just a fraction. She stays out of it, she said. That's non-negotiable. Marcus believed her, just enough to be dangerous. He closed the door slowly. Claire waited. Marcus turned the lock, then unlocked it again. When he opened the door, his voice was steady. I'm not stepping into anything, he said. Not without conditions. Claire smiled faintly. I was hoping you'd say that. That evening, Marcus tucked Emma into bed. Daddy, she asked softly, are you mad? No, he said. Why would I be? You look like you're thinking very hard. Marcus brushed her hair back gently. I am, he said, about how to keep you safe. She nodded, satisfied, and closed her eyes. Marcus stood in the doorway long after she fell asleep. For the first time since the parking lot, he admitted the truth to himself. He could walk away. But walking away wouldn't make this disappear. It would only leave the ending in someone else's hands. And Marcus Cole had never been good at trusting endings he couldn't see. The room had no windows. Marcus noticed that first. No clocks either. No flags. No photographs. Just gray walls, a steel table, and a single screen mounted at eye level. The kind of place designed to remove any sense of time or comfort. Claire closed the door behind them. Phone, she said. Marcus handed it over without comment. She placed it in a small lockbox on the wall and pressed a button. A soft click followed. Still your choice, she said. You can leave right now. Marcus didn't move. Thought so, Claire said, and tapped the screen. The image came to life. At first it looked like nothing, just a satellite view of Southern California, slowly zooming in. Roads, neighborhoods, parking lots. Places Marcus had driven through 1,000 times without thinking. Then markers appeared. Red circles, blue lines, timestamps. This is not about yesterday, Claire said. Yesterday just exposed it. Marcus leaned forward slightly. What am I looking at? He asked. Movement, she replied. Patterns people assume no one is watching. The screen shifted to a grainy video feed. A parking garage. A woman stepping into frame. 4 men following at staggered intervals. Marcus's jaw tightened. That's not my case, he said. No, Claire replied. It's the one before it. The video jumped again. Another location. Another woman. Another van. This has been happening for 18 months, Claire said. Different cities, same choreography. Marcus straightened. These aren't criminals, he said. They're trained. Claire nodded. Formerly, or partially, enough to be dangerous. The screen changed again. A document appeared. Blacked out lines, redacted names. Only a few words remained visible. Policy review. External sensitivities. Operational delay recommended. Marcus stared at it. That's political, he said. Yes, Claire replied, and intentional. She turned to face him fully for the first time. These removals aren't random, she said. They target people positioned between information and visibility. Analysts, attachés, advisors, people who know just enough to cause trouble. Marcus thought of the woman in the parking lot. Her stillness, her eyes. And Sarah Brennan? He asked. Claire hesitated, just long enough to matter. She wasn't supposed to be on the list, she said. Marcus exhaled slowly. So why was she? He asked. Claire met his gaze. Because someone moved her name. Silence filled the room. Yesterday's team wasn't meant to succeed, Claire continued. They were meant to test something. Marcus looked up sharply. Who would intervene? He said. Who could? Claire corrected. And how fast? Marcus felt a chill crawl up his spine. And I wasn't supposed to, he said. No, Claire replied. You weren't. The screen switched again, a freeze frame from the parking lot. Marcus himself, mid-stride, captured from an angle he hadn't noticed. Your presence created a problem, Claire said. Not because you stopped them, but because you did it without permission. Marcus clenched his jaw. So now what? He asked. Now we fix the list, Claire said, and close the gap. She slid a thin folder across the table. Inside were photographs, names, dates. None of them meant anything to Marcus. Yet. These are the next 3 removals, Claire said. Planned, scheduled, already approved at levels you don't get to see. Marcus pushed the folder back. I'm not an assassin, he said flatly. Claire didn't react. Neither are we, she said. Our job is interruption. And you need me to do what? Marcus asked. Claire held his gaze. You notice things, she said. You react before consensus forms. You're not loyal to systems. Marcus laughed once, quietly. I'm loyal to my daughter. Claire nodded. Which is why you're here. The door opened behind them. Admiral Brennan stepped in. He looked smaller in this room, less ceremonial, more human. Marcus, he said. Marcus stood. You didn't tell me this part, Marcus said. Brennan sighed. Because I was hoping you wouldn't need to see it. Marcus gestured at the screen. You knew this was bigger. Yes, Brennan admitted, and I knew if I told you too much you'd refuse. So this is manipulation. No, Brennan said. It's triage. Marcus turned away, hands braced on the table. And my daughter? He asked. Where does she fit into this picture? Brennan's voice softened. She doesn't, he said. And she never will. Marcus turned back slowly. That's not an answer, he said. Brennan stepped closer. It's a promise, he said. One I don't make lightly. Claire spoke again. We're not asking you to become something you aren't, she said. We're asking you to help us see what we're missing. Marcus closed his eyes. He thought of Emma lining up crayons, of the unicorn, of the van door sliding open. How long? He asked. Claire answered immediately. 72 hours, she said. That's all we need. And after that? You go home, she said, and this ends. Marcus opened his eyes. He looked at the folder again, at the names, at the timeline. He finally nodded once. One condition, he said. Brennan raised an eyebrow. If at any point this puts my daughter in danger, Marcus said, voice low and absolute, I walk, and I don't ask permission. Brennan didn't hesitate. Agreed, he said. Claire extended her hand. Marcus didn't shake it. He picked up the folder. Then let's close the gap, he said. As the screen went dark, Marcus understood something with unsettling clarity. Yesterday, he had saved one life. Today, he was standing in a room designed to decide which lives were allowed to stay visible. And once you saw a system like that, you didn't get to pretend it wasn't there. The clock started without ceremony. No countdown, No announcement. Just a line of text on the screen as Marcus stepped back into the daylight. 7,200 total. The city looked unchanged. Traffic flowed. Coffee shops opened. Parents hurried children into cars. Oceanside kept breathing as if nothing had shifted beneath its skin. Marcus rode in the back seat of an unmarked sedan, Claire in the front passenger seat, a driver he hadn't been introduced to behind the wheel. No radios crackled. No one spoke. He watched reflections slide across the glass, storefronts, palm trees, faces he would never see again. "First stop," Claire said finally. The car turned off the main road and into a residential neighborhood. Quiet. Maintained. The kind of place where people trusted the absence of sirens. They parked a block away from a small community center. "Target?" Marcus asked. "Observer," Claire corrected. "If we do this right, no one touches him." They exited the vehicle separately. Marcus blended easily. Baseball cap, sunglasses, the posture of a man with nowhere urgent to be. He entered the community center and took a seat near the back, close enough to hear but far enough to disappear. A panel discussion was underway. Folding chairs, a microphone that squealed softly before settling. A banner read, "Civic Infrastructure Forum." On stage sat 3 people. Marcus recognized one face from the folder. Daniel Ortiz, municipal logistics consultant, advisory clearance, low visibility. The man spoke calmly about budgets, transit timing, redundancies, ordinary words carrying extraordinary consequences when applied in the wrong place. Marcus felt the shift before he saw it. 2 men entered late and took seats near the aisle. Not together. Not obvious. But wrong. Their eyes didn't track the speaker. They tracked exits. Marcus leaned back slightly, adjusting his angle. "Claire," he murmured into the small mic tucked beneath his collar. "We have company." "I see them," she replied. "Confirming." Marcus watched Ortiz finish his sentence. The plan was simple. They wouldn't grab him here. Too public. Too many variables. They would follow. Marcus stood before applause ended, slipped out a side door, and circled the building. Ortiz emerged 10 minutes later, alone, phone to his ear, walking toward his car. One of the men fell in behind him. Marcus stepped into the crosswalk ahead, forcing Ortiz to slow. The follower hesitated. That was enough. Claire's voice cut in. "Abort! They've changed!" Marcus turned. A third man stood across the street, hand inside his jacket. Too soon. Marcus moved. Not toward Ortiz, toward the third man. He dropped his keys deliberately, bent to retrieve them. Let his shoulder brush the man's arm. "Sorry," Marcus said, mild and forgettable. The man flinched. Not from the contact, from recognition. Marcus straightened and met his eyes for half a second, long enough to send the message. "I see you." The man stepped back. The other 2 recalculated. They melted into foot traffic and disappeared. Ortiz drove away, unaware. Marcus exhaled slowly. "Clock check," he said. 68 hours, Claire replied. Back in the car, no one spoke. Then the phone buzzed. Not Marcus's, Claire's. She glanced at the screen and swore under her breath. "What?" Marcus asked. "They pivoted," she said. "Second target moved up." "Where?" "School zone," Claire said. "Elementary." Marcus's blood went cold. "What name?" he asked. Claire hesitated. "Not yours," she said quickly. "But close enough to test you." The car surged forward. They stopped 2 blocks from a school Marcus recognized. Emma's school. Not the building, another nearby, but close enough to matter. Parents clustered at the gate. Children spilled onto sidewalks in bursts of noise and color. Marcus scanned. Too many people. Too many angles. There, he said. A woman lingered near a parked car, phone raised, not filming children but the street beyond. A man stood farther down, pretending to tie his shoe. Claire spoke fast. We can't pull them here. Any move creates panic. Marcus nodded. He crossed the street with purpose, weaving through parents, stopping beside a father struggling with a stroller. Here, Marcus said, steadying it. Got it. The father thanked him. The pause rippled outward. The woman near the car shifted position. The man tying his shoe stood. They were adjusting. Marcus turned toward the woman and smiled. Hey, he said. You dropped this. He held out a phone that wasn't hers. She froze. That was the tell. She stepped back. The man across the street turned away too fast. Claire's voice cut in, controlled. They're backing off. Marcus watched as both suspects moved off separately, swallowed by traffic. No confrontation, no scene, just pressure applied in the right place. When it was over, Marcus leaned against a fence and let his breathing slow. Why test near schools? He asked quietly. Claire didn't answer at first. Because it creates leverage, she said finally. And fear makes mistakes. Marcus closed his eyes. Don't do that again, he said. Ever. There was a pause. Noted, Claire replied. That night, Marcus stood outside Emma's room, listening to her sleep. His phone buzzed. No number. You're early. Marcus didn't reply. He powered the phone off and set it on the kitchen counter. Outside, a car passed slowly. Then another. Marcus didn't move to the window. He stayed where he was, between his daughter and the rest of the world. The clock kept running. 61:43:12. And Marcus Cole understood something with painful clarity. The job wasn't to stop them. The job was to stay visible long enough that they couldn't finish what they'd started. The message didn't come immediately. That worried Marcus more than if it had. Silence, after pressure, usually meant recalculation. He sat in the back of the unmarked sedan as night settled over the city. Street lights flickered on in sequence, washing sidewalks in pale orange. Claire watched the map on a tablet, blue dots drifting, red lines thinning. They're not retreating, she said quietly. They're reorganizing. Marcus stared out the window. Around what? Claire didn't answer right away. Us, she said finally. The car slowed near a strip of closed storefronts. A laundromat glowed at the corner, machines rattling behind fogged glass. The driver cut the engine. Why here? Marcus asked. Because this is where patterns break, Claire replied, and where people make calls they don't want traced. They stepped out separately. Marcus took the long way around, circling behind a row of dumpsters, stopping where the alley narrowed. He waited with the patience of someone who had learned that waiting was also action. A man stepped into the light, late 40s, plain jacket. Expensive shoes, scuffed just enough to look careless. He held a phone to his ear and spoke in a low, practiced voice. No, the window's closing, the man said. We lost the margin. Marcus caught the cadence, not panic, calculation. Claire's voice whispered in his ear. That's him. Who? Marcus murmured. The coordinator, Claire said. Not field, not command, the hinge. The man paced, turned his back to the street, and lowered his voice further. If we push again, we escalate. If we don't, they'll rewrite the list. Rewrite. Marcus stepped closer, just enough to let his shadow cross the edge of the light. The man stopped mid-sentence. Marcus didn't speak. He simply stood there, visible. The man ended the call slowly and turned. Recognition flickered across his face. Not fear, not surprise. Appraisal. "You're not supposed to be here," the man said. Marcus shrugged slightly. "Neither are you." The man glanced past him, scanning exits. "This isn't your lane." Marcus took another step. "You made it my lane." The man smiled thinly. "You don't know how this works." Marcus shook his head once. "I know exactly how it works." He leaned in just enough for his voice to stay private. "You remove people quietly," Marcus said. "You keep it looking small. You depend on everyone else staying polite." The man's jaw tightened. "And you hate uncertainty," Marcus added, "because it doesn't ask permission." The man studied him. "What do you want?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "The list." The man laughed softly. "You think I carry it?" "No," Marcus said. "I think you carry access." A pause. The man slipped the phone into his pocket. "If I give you anything," he said, "I disappear." Marcus met his eyes. "You already are." The man weighed that. Then he spoke very carefully. "You stopped a removal that wasn't approved." "Whose approval?" Marcus asked. The man exhaled through his nose. "People who don't like daylight." "Names," Marcus said. The man's smile returned, strained now. "You don't want them." Marcus said nothing. Claire's voice cut in. "Marcus, we're burning time." The man heard the whisper. His eyes narrowed. "So that's how this ends," he said. "You hand me over. Make a statement." "No," Marcus replied. "I let you make one." He stepped back, clearing the light. Police sirens rose in the distance. Not close, not far. Enough. The man looked past Marcus again, then down the alley. Options collapsed. "You won't be protected," he said. "Not by them." Marcus turned away. "I'm not asking them to." By the time the sirens arrived, the man was sitting on a crate, hands visible, face drained of color. He didn't resist. Later, back in the car, Claire scrolled through files now unlocked. "Names," she said. "Routes. Timing. And this." She turned the screen toward Marcus. A memo. Internal. Sanitized language masking brutal intent. Operational cover maintained through administrative delay. Marcus stared at it. "They hid removals inside procedure," he said. Claire nodded. "Policy as camouflage." "And Sarah?" Marcus asked. Claire hesitated. She noticed the pattern. Marcus closed his eyes. The parking lot returned. The knife, the van, the smile. "They moved her name to test response," Marcus said. "Yes," Claire replied. "And they didn't expect you." The car pulled away. Marcus watched the city recede, feeling the weight shift, not lift. "How many left?" he asked. Claire checked the clock. 38 hours. "And after that?" Claire met his gaze. "After that, the list dies." Marcus looked at his hands. "Or it gets rewritten," he said. Claire didn't deny it. That night, Marcus sat at his kitchen table long after the house went quiet. He listened to the steady sounds of Emma sleeping. He let the silence settle. His phone buzzed once. Unknown number. "You changed the calculus." Marcus typed back for the first time. Marcus. Good. He powered the phone off. Outside somewhere, plans were being abandoned. Others were being rushed. Marcus stood, checked the locks and paused at Emma's door. He didn't go in. He didn't need to. For the first time since the parking lot, Marcus felt something like balance. Not safety, leverage. The clock kept running. 38:12:07. And now everyone involved understood the same thing. This was no longer about removing people quietly. It was about whether the system could survive being seen. The last hours moved differently. Not faster, sharper. Every minute carried weight now, as if the air itself had learned what was at stake. Marcus stood in a quiet office overlooking the harbor, hands resting on the back of a chair he didn't sit in. The windows were darkened from the outside. Inside, the lights were low. No insignia. No cameras in obvious places. Claire paced once, then stopped. "We have confirmation," she said. "2 remaining cells aborted within the last hour." Marcus didn't react. "Aborted isn't ended." "No," Claire agreed. "It's hesitation." A screen lit up at the far end of the room. A secure line connected. Admiral Brennan appeared, older than Marcus remembered from their first meeting, his uniform replaced by a plain jacket. "You did exactly what you said you would," Brennan said. "You made it visible." Marcus met his gaze. "Visibility isn't protection." "It can be," Brennan replied, "if it's timed right." Claire turned the screen slightly, bringing up a single document. Clean, unredacted. A list. Names Marcus had seen before, now paired with timestamps, routes, authorizations. The bureaucratic skeleton beneath the violence. "This goes public?" Marcus asked. Brennan shook his head. "Not yet." Marcus felt the tension rise. "Then nothing changes." Brennan held up a hand. "It changes because they know we can." Silence followed, heavy, deliberate. 38 minutes, Claire said quietly. "That's the window before they either fold or force an incident." Marcus stepped closer to the screen. "Who decides?" Brennan didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was flat. "People who prefer this never existed." Marcus nodded once. "Then they'll push." The secure line chimed again. A second feed appeared, audio only. A voice Marcus recognized from the alley. Tired now, stripped of confidence. "You got your leverage," the voice said. "Call it off." Marcus leaned toward the mic. "You don't get to bargain." "You're not in charge," the voice snapped. Marcus spoke evenly. "I'm the variable you didn't plan for." A pause, then softer. "If this breaks, it won't break clean." Marcus glanced at Claire. She gave the smallest nod. "Say it," Marcus said. "Say what?" the voice asked. "Say who moved the name." The line crackled. The silence stretched until it hurt. "Policy review," the voice said finally. "External sensitivities. Signed at an assistant level. Approved because no one thought it would matter." Brennan closed his eyes on screen. "You used delay as cover," Marcus said. "You hid removals inside process." "Yes," the voice replied, "because process is invisible." Marcus took a breath. "It isn't anymore." The voice laughed bitterly. "You think exposure ends this?" "It ends this version," Marcus said. "And that's enough." Claire leaned in. "Clock check." 21 minutes, Marcus said. The harbor outside shifted as a ship passed, its lights cutting slow arcs across the water. Time kept moving. It always did. Another chime. A third feed opened. Text only. Internal confirmations stacked one by one. Operation suspended authorizations, revoked assets. Recalled. The room didn't celebrate. No one smiled. Marcus watched the words appear, then disappear, replaced by a final line. List archived. Pending review. Archived isn't dead, Marcus said. No, Brennan replied. But it's frozen. And frozen buys time, Marcus said. Brennan nodded. Time to dismantle. The audio line spoke again, resignation replacing defiance. You'll make enemies. Marcus didn't hesitate. I already had them. The line went dead. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Claire exhaled. Cells are standing down. Marcus checked the clock. 2 minutes. They waited. At 0, nothing happened. No alerts, no sirens, no sudden calls. Just the city outside, unaware that a line had been held. Brennan's image softened. It's over, he said. For now. Marcus turned away from the screen and looked out at the water. He thought of Emma lining up crayons, of the unicorn, of the van door that never closed. What happens to them? Marcus asked. Investigations, Brennan said. Quiet ones. And the system? Marcus asked. Brennan didn't answer right away. The system adapts. Marcus nodded. So do people. The screen went dark. Claire gathered the tablet and slid it into a case. You kept your condition, she said. No escalation. Marcus met her eyes. Don't confuse restraint with permission. She smiled faintly. I won't. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. Marcus walked alone to his car. No escort. No ceremony. On the drive home, he didn't turn on the radio. He pulled into his driveway and sat there for a moment, hands resting on the wheel, feeling the quiet return. Inside, the house slept. Marcus checked the locks, the windows, the small rituals that grounded him. He paused at Emma's door and listened to her breathing. Even. Calm. He stood there longer than necessary. For the first time since the parking lot, Marcus allowed himself to believe the next morning would arrive without a knock. But he also understood something else, something the system had learned the hard way. It wasn't fear that stopped them. It was the certainty that someone was willing to look directly at what they'd hidden and refused to look away. Nothing dramatic happened the next morning. That was how Marcus Cole knew it was truly over. The sun rose on time. The street outside his house filled with the usual sounds, garbage trucks, doors opening, a neighbor's radio drifting faintly through an open window. Oceanside went on with the quiet confidence of a city that believed yesterday had ended properly. Marcus stood at the kitchen counter, making breakfast. Pancakes, bacon, orange juice poured carefully so it didn't splash. Emma patted in wearing mismatched socks, her hair still tangled from sleep, the stuffed unicorn tucked under her arm. Daddy, she said, climbing onto the chair. Is it a school day? Marcus smiled. It is. She frowned slightly. Nothing bad today? Marcus flipped a pancake, watching it land perfectly in the pan. No, he said. Nothing bad today. She accepted that without question. Children were good at that, believing the world could be simple again if the adults made it so. They ate together at the small table. Emma talked about a spelling test she felt confident about. Marcus listened, asked questions, nodded at the right moments. The house felt warm, ordinary, safe. When the bus came, Marcus walked her to the stop like he always did. He waited until the doors closed and the bus pulled away before turning back toward the house. No black sedans lingered. No unfamiliar faces watched from across the street. Just the quiet rhythm of a neighborhood resuming itself. Inside, Marcus sat alone for a long time. He didn't check his phone. There were no messages waiting. That afternoon, Admiral Brennan called. I won't take much of your time, the Admiral said. Marcus stepped onto the back porch, letting the ocean air settle his thoughts. "I wanted to tell you," Brennan continued, "the reviews have begun. Proper ones. The kind that don't end with quiet approvals." Marcus said nothing. "My daughter asked about you," Brennan added. "She wanted to know how the man who saved her was doing." "And?" Marcus asked. "I told her you went home," Brennan said. "That you had a little girl who needed you more than anything else." Marcus closed his eyes. "That was the right answer," he said. Brennan hesitated. "There may come a time when—" Marcus cut him off gently. "If that time comes, you'll call. Until then, let it rest." A pause. "Fair," Brennan said. "And Marcus, thank you." The line went dead. Marcus stayed on the porch, listening to the wind move through the trees. Later, he found the folder Claire had given him, now empty, the documents long gone. He folded it once and placed it at the bottom of a drawer he rarely opened. Some things didn't need to be kept close to be remembered. That evening, Emma came home with a drawing. It showed a small house, a sun in the corner, 2 stick figures holding hands. "What's this?" Marcus asked. "That's us," Emma said, "and that's you." Marcus smiled. "Why am I bigger?" She looked at him like the answer was obvious. "Because you stand in front," she said. Marcus swallowed. That night, after Emma fell asleep, Marcus stood at her door longer than usual. He watched her chest rise and fall. He memorized the way the room felt, safe, unchanged, untouched by things she would never need to know. Downstairs, the house creaked softly as it cooled. Marcus sat on the couch and let the quiet settle. For the first time since the parking lot, he allowed himself to replay it. Not the violence, not the speed, but the moment before. The choice. He realized something then. The hardest part hadn't been stepping in. It had been stepping back out. Not everyone got to do that. Marcus did, and he intended to keep it that way. Outside, the city lights glowed steadily. Somewhere beyond them, systems adjusted. Names were reviewed, procedures rewritten. But here, in this small house near the ocean, none of that mattered. Marcus turned off the lights and went upstairs. Tomorrow would come, and the next day, and the quiet would hold, because someone had chosen once not to look away. Marcus Cole lay down, knowing one thing with certainty. He didn't save the world. He saved a moment. And sometimes, that was enough.